So we're going to talk about new products today, specifically the new Trackstar 412i and the new Trackstar 618i, the new indexer. I'm Brett Stone. I'm the product manager for the I-Series. I'm joined by Jeff Coe today. Jeff is our Vice President of Product Development. So I'm going to start this discussion, tee it up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and let him do more of the dive in on the details of the Trackstar and the I-Series that you saw today at Product Showcase. And then we'll come back to myself. We're going to talk about markets a little bit around this new product. Then we'll discuss about what it's going to look like in terms of our onboarding for our distributors. And then we'll wrap it up. So Trackstar I-Series, let's level set real quick. About 2.5 years ago, we launched the Trackstar I-Series in the Trackstar 630i, 900i, and also the 1200i. Today we have more Trackstar, we've sold more Trackstar I-Series than we ever sold of the Series 2. So the reception around that product has been tremendous, not only from our channel partners, but from the market itself. This one is really phenomenal, but if you think about it, when we launched Trackstar 2.5 years ago, there's fusion guide control within the operation of the machine. So you have level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 3 being essentially automatic fusion. Level 1 being where the operator still has control. So at that time, there was a lot of discussion about where, what would be, what the data would show essentially about where most of those fusions were taking place. So fast forward 2.5 years, and over 50% of fusions that we've logged within our records show that they were over level 3, over 50% in level 3. So you've got different levels, obviously, for different operations that you encounter in the field. But think about that. That's automatic fusion. Over 50% of those records have happened. Now, in Europe, they've been doing automatic fusion for a long, long time. So it's still relatively new for us here in the United States. But again, the adoption has been very, very strong. The global reach of the I-Series has been very strong. We've sold machines into Saudi Arabia, into Kazakhstan, obviously into Australia. I think the reach of this machine has been like no other 630, 900, or 1200 that we've sold previously. It's very interesting that the two machines that we sold into Saudi Arabia went to a job in Neom. If you ever look it up, it's what they're building essentially is a city there, and they're using the machines to fuse a water line because they're pulling ancient water right next to the Red Sea to contain this water, to desalinate, to be able to feed this structure they're building called the line. And it's basically a 100-mile stretch of a line building, and they want to bring 9 million people into this area of Saudi Arabia at some point. So I don't know if I want to retire to Saudi Arabia, but it's worth a look up. It's very fascinating. Think back 2.5 years ago, the original product launch, we at McElroy, we did something different. We did come through COVID on that launch, so it was a tricky launch, and it was a product with new technology. So we wanted to be able to bring that technology to the field. So how do we do that? But the first thing we needed to do is bring our distribution in. And before we did that, there were modules that we asked that our distribution take to learn basically the level set on the product. And then you would come to McElroy, you get a deeper dive of the product, and then we would ship the product to the field. And then we arrived in the field pretty much with every machine to do basically an installation of the machine and then training as well. So it was a new launch for us, but again, it was well received, and I think it really helped get the product into the field very quickly. And then, at the time, when you look at Brad's analytics and you look at the red, the yellow, the green, in terms of his charts, where did we fall in terms of launching that product? And if I recall, there was a lot of yellow a lot of red when we launched that product. And it was COVID. Nobody knew what was going to happen. There were supply issues that we've all dealt with. But the product launched was tremendous, and there's a lot of machines in the field today. So when we launched this product, I think we caught it just right. So let's talk a little bit about why this product was adopted into the market as well as it was. The first thing I'll touch on, you've heard a lot about it, but is Fusion Guide Control. And you saw that today on the Trackstar 412i, the 618i, that now again, you've got Fusion Guide Control. I just touched on it. Over 50% of those Fusions so far from the field have been in level 3. And I'm going to talk more about it, but I think this will really give the operators a chance to, in level 1, you're doing that operation pretty much like you've done with a regular manifold on one of our machines. Level 2, the machine takes over a little bit more. You're interacting with the data logger. And then level 3, the machine completely takes over. So that's being able to continue to evolve Fusion Guide Control is a tremendous thing for us. I'm going to talk about auto drag. Again, the machine you saw today will do automatic drag calculation and that function for you. Talking about easy, we took the two of the most difficult portions of the Fusion out of the equation. Being able to fuse, what level, the shift sequence, and then also calculating drag pressure. Now the machine will do that for you. And then, obviously those two things I just talked about are ease, but just really when you get in front of the machine, this operator here, all he's going to do is hit the confirmation button and the machine's going to go through and continue on with the rest of that fusion. So it's a very, very easy, intuitive machine to operate. This one I've heard a lot of success stories around, and it's job site efficiency. So this picture right here, that machine was just fused in level 3, that line right there. So it allows that operator to be close, but yet he's adjusting or moving that line like you see in that image. So the efficiency that it gives the operator, they don't have to be right there on the machine. They've just completed a fusion. It's going to allow that free up time for them to be able to go do other things. I had a discussion yesterday with somebody, and they came up to me and they said, "Brett, I'm a little mad at you." And I said, "Well, oh gosh, what do I do now?" So I usually hear that at home, but I heard it here. So they said, "Well, we had a 1-month rental on a machine, and it ended up being a 2-week rental because the machine handled so efficiently on that job. It was all handled in level 3 that they were able to shorten that window of that job by 2 weeks. So they had to cut short that rental time by 2 weeks, but yet they greatly improved the efficiency on that job site. And then obviously there's some built-in safety features. This is again is another one that I don't think we talk about enough, but the built-in safety features, the proximity sensors built into the equipment that lessen the damage to the equipment itself. I know I've had various conversations with a few of you here about that, but those built into the machine have really helped on the 630, the 900, and the 1200i. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jeff and have Jeff, we're going to do a deep dive into the products that you saw today.
All right, thanks Brett, and thanks for reviewing that material. A lot of that feedback and a lot of that information is what flavored some of the design decisions we had to make as we went through the development for these products. Things like what were the most important features that we needed to put into the 12 and the 18 size class machine. How do we be able to replicate things like shift sequence, automatic drag calculation, and being able to do Fusion Guide Control for all 3 levels. And with other things that we didn't necessarily need to adjust on these. So we're going to go over some more details. Some of this will be a little repetitive from this morning, but we'll go into some more deeper details. I'll try and hit a few questions that I know came up out at the product showcase. And then after we're done, obviously, as usual, we'll open it up for questions. But before I start, I understand we had some bets going on last night at a couple of the tables as to what you were going to see today. So my question is, did anybody win? And if you did, who was it?
And what did you win?
Yeah, what did you win? Was there money on this, or was this just bragging rights? No one wants to own up to it? So,
The old things that we do now. Yeah, bragging rights, I think.
bragging rights at this point. Okay, well, you can go back and know that you were the one that knew earliest. So, okay, as we talked this morning, we'll kind of break these products down because there are differences between the Trackstar unit and the rolling unit and the pit bull that goes on it. So we'll review a few of those again. First of all, for the pit bull, from a design standpoint, for both 412 and 618 now, they're designed with a 4-jaw carriage skid. It's not new to us, but it is a design for this particular unit that's different than what we've had in the past. Part of that is because of the mounting we need for the indexer to handle the heater and facer and all of that. So being from a 4-jaw carriage skid, normal operation, if you need to take these carriages and go in 3-jaw mode, you can take the fixed jaw braces off. You can go into 3-jaw mode, but the indexer stays with the 4-jaw carriage, just as it usually does. Therefore, when you go to 3-jaw, if you want to bring the facer and the heater over, you got to pick and place them and put them in at the appropriate times for it. These will have 3-mode manifold operation, as they traditionally have, and as you saw, as well as that dedicated data logger mounting we have for the adjustability, the sunshade, and ability to present that information right there. And then finally, I know I hit this morning, but I got 2 questions on it while I was out there, so it's a good thing I left these bullets in here. Reminder, they are available in both manual and hydraulic clamping. So, although we have to build hydraulic clamping ones and we show the pictures because we've got to make sure those work, the reality is a large percentage of these units go out with manual clamping, and so that's still the options that are available on that, as well as low, medium, and high force cylinders. That's it as far as the pit bull specifically. We'll talk a little more about indexer operation. I think everybody got to witness how all that works, or at least tried to figure out while they were watching it how exactly the mechanism worked and what was happening there. Start with, this is a common core or a common indexer core for both units, so those are all the same parts, whether it's a 412 or a 618, as far as the carriage and the mount and the internal mechanism inside of that. Those are all identical parts, nothing different between them. Because you have the different sizes, facer and heater, we do have different splice plates for the heater side of this as far as the connection to that. So there is that small difference in terms of that. But really everything else on here was designed to be able to work for both sizes and handle the differences. Again, out there as noted, we have rotational position control of linear movement of that indexer, which really means I reach out and I grab one of those, either the face or the heater, I pull it towards me just a little bit, and that unlocks the brake, and then I can slide it side to side wherever I need to and put it into position. That brake then is also released whenever either one of those is all the way down, so that that indexer floats, whether you're in a facing operation or whether you're in part of the fusion operation where we would traditionally have that functionality. And then the brake's set whenever both of them are out, so that that indexer doesn't slide on us whenever we're doing other options or doing other functions. Built into that, as you witnessed out there, so when you bring the heater down into the fusion zone, there is a latch that puts it into the all the way down position and holds it there. And then the stripping and release mechanism works between the indexer and the carriage. So as the indexer as the carriage first starts to move in an open position, then it strips the heater off both ends of the pipe, through ramps that are down there to handle the actual position of it. And then as you reach the almost far end of open, then it releases the latch to be able to retract the heater out with those gas struts that are there. Now, as a couple of you may have noticed, if you latch that heater down in the fusion zone and then you go, oh, yeah, I didn't mean to do that, you gotta close and open the carriage to get it to release. That's the mechanism to open it. So it doesn't really affect you when you're doing normal work and you're doing normal fusions, but when that latches in, that is the mechanism to open it up with. What we didn't show, because we had pipe in it, is that when you put it for storage, and in between the fixed jaws, there's a small little part on the skid, then that you latch them down, you lift the facer up, and then you grab the facer, slide it over a little bit, and that's what releases the heater when it's between the fixed jaws. So still latches down, but there's a little ramp down there, so you just start to slide the indexer over to the right, and then that heater will retract and release and come up. So that's how we get out of the storage position whenever you're starting your day or getting off the truck or whatever it is that you're doing at that point. Reminder, it's the same parts indexer across all these carriages that we've talked about. Rolling units, then just to hammer home a few of these utilized the Pitbull 412 and 618 as shown there, that have the 3-mode manifold operation, work in conjunction with the existing chassis. So those do not change. No need for any of the parts to change. Indexer, as we saw out there, operates in that available space. So there's nothing else from a connection standpoint that really had to change, and allows us to continue using those going forward. So those will be the same electric and gas options that we've traditionally had. One thing of note, just to make sure there's no confusion, so we've talked 412 and we've talked 618 and a lot of this, there are no changes on the Pitbull 28 or the Rolling 28. Those two models, exact same part numbers you ordered today, will continue to be produced as is, and will continue to go out. So just to clarify for sure that no changes on them. Okay, now we'll move on, talk about the Trackstars 412i and 618i. Again, differences from the rolling units because of the nature of the carriages and some of the things involved in them. From the track vehicle standpoint, we talked this morning about some of this, but some more specifics. So if you looked really closely and you knew what you were looking for, we do have a new GFCI box down there on the side of the vehicle. Looks very similar to the one we have today. It's just a little bit different. That's because it still has to maintain the functionality to support the legacy carriages in it as far as the plug-in heaters. Plus we have to have the wires that come through to support our CAN-enabled heaters. So pretty much the exact same in terms of what you see from the outside, a little bit different because of the wires that go through and support those CAN-enabled heaters. Additionally, we do have the new hydraulic tank that's under the dome. Helps us with cooling and flow, and our new cowlings, as you saw out there, with increase our airflow or make better airflow through there for when we're running in the hot. One thing that I didn't cover this morning, but a couple of you noticed, is that there is a hydraulic bypass valve when starting. You do not have to turn the facer valve to start the unit. Whenever the key goes to the start position, it kicks in that bypass valve. Therefore, there's no need to worry about dropping the load on the engine by having to rotate that valve and then turning it back. That's all handled basically behind the scenes and is built into the vehicle from the start. From a component standpoint, we're using the same major power components, same engine, same generator, same hydraulic pump, same rubber tracks, rollers underneath that, same pipe lifts on the end. Many of those things that were functioning well for us today, and we'll continue to do that going forward. So Whatever you have for parts inventory to support that part will be the same ones going forward. Obviously with the changes to the frame and the cowlings and hydraulic tank area and some of the electrical things that are different. But for those major parts there on the power side of it, all that's the same as what we have today. Pipe lift valve on the hydraulic side, those types of items. And then, again, we talked about it. These will be compatible with all legacy carriages from the Series 2 world. So if you find yourself in the need of ordering a replacement vehicle, once we get into production, you can take one of those carriages. It mates right up. Hydraulics plug in the same spot, and everything else works from the support of that. Okay, so for the carriages that then go on the 2 Trackstar units, again, we incorporate a position sensor and the pressure manifold to be able to give us that fusion guide control operation of it. Pressures, or the linear transducer sits on jaws there on the operator side, tucked in behind where the manifold is. And reminder, again, talked about the same indexer. Carriage open closing will run off of the data logger. There's no paddle lever on the controls anywhere like we have on the 630i through the 1200i. All that functionality runs through the data logger. Again, these carriages as well are available, manual and hydraulic clamping and low, medium, and high force. And we didn't really talk about it, but just to be clear, compatible with all existing inserts. From that aspect of the jaws, none of that's changed. So whatever inventory of that you have or whatever you've traditionally used will be the same ones here. So none of that's required as far as updates there. Same thing holds true about if you're wondering how do we do 3-jaw mode on these. Same thing for the ones on the Trackstar. Take off the fixed jaw brace, you can pull the 3-jaw off. You need that to go in ditch, but then you'll need to be able to pick and put in the facer and the heater for those particular operations. And just answer the one question I think I got the most while I was out there this morning. 18-inch heater. So you're only going to have one now, right? That was a question that I think several of you asked, and several of you were hoping for the right answer, whenever that is. So the intent is that we will end up with an 18-inch heater that handles full diameter. So we will not have to go from 18 to 12 and then 12 all the way down. We did not have the ability to get the heater elements here in time and prove the operation of that to put it on that machine and show it. But that is the intention and the direction that we intend to go. Once we are able to get those parts in and validate that, then we will for sure let everybody know from a confirmation of that. But that's the path we're on at this point. Okay, from a user interface, if you got a chance to get around, Jesse, Francisco, or others that were running it, again, reminder, the carriage open close up in the top right, so you have the ability to run the joystick, you have the ability to tap the little buttons to be either full open, full closed, that locks the joystick in place. You see that. We now turn the heater on and off from here. Be able to see that temperature as well as the pressure control on there. One thing to note with these units is we do have the ability now to start and stop the engine from the data logger. So with the key on and running, we can stop it over there, restart it if that's what we need on our job site and things that are going on as well too. In addition to hydraulic lockout button functionality provided there. Okay, few points just to wrap up. I think everybody understands by now we have fusion guide control on 3 levels. Control on it. One other thing that I didn't hit is because our vehicle in this case is still using that same Kubota engine, which is not electronically controlled, we do not have a display or the need to put a display over on the vehicle. So there's none of that added components on there, but we do need to access certain info on the unit, and all of that will be done on the data logger. So whatever that information is, if it's I'm in a troubleshooting state and I need to see the I/O screens, I'll be able to access those from the data logger. Look in to see what I need, what the carriage sensor is telling me, or other things. Or if I'm just needing the diagnostic codes or other things, all of those will be presented to the operator from the data logger on this particular unit. And then finally, this will require a new in-ditch kit for the new TrackStar units, most notably because we now have electrical connections that we have to make. Hydraulics really are the same, but we have an additional electrical cable and heater cable management that we have to do. So if you look at your in-ditch kits for these today, again, the hydraulics are really going to be the same. It's the addition of these other cables, but the kit that we will sell with the new units will have all of those in there as far as providing what's needed for an in-ditch operation. All right, we'll talk about ordering. Now, it's a little dangerous to let product development guy talk about ordering, but somehow we decided that was a good idea today. First of all, the only editorial note that I'll make that I forgot to make this morning, prices shown this morning on the screen were all for manual clamping. So if you were taking notes, took pictures, those are all the manual clamping options for all those different configurations. As noted, we'll have hydraulic clamping. It will be very similar in terms of the price differential from what we've had in the past for those as well too. But just make note, those prices you saw this morning were all manual clamping. Yes. Question was, were those list prices? And the answer to that, yes. So as far as ordering going forward, just a reminder, we're talking about shipments in June. I had a couple other questions. When are we going to stop building Series 2 units? And the answer is when we fulfill the orders that we have for that. Well, when are you going to stop taking orders for Series 2? We don't have that date yet. What we really intend is for the orders for Series 2 units to come in. We continue to have product to flow to the market, to flow to facilities, and to flow to our customers as needed. That's what we would expect to be able to have going out the door. There will come a point with the new units that they will be the replacement for the Series 2 units. So the intent is, yes, we're not going to be building them side by side and maintain two different models going down the line. These will be replacements to them. But we for sure want to make sure our products are flowing to the market and continuing to satisfy needs out there. So we'll stop building them when we don't have orders on them leading up to that point. Okay, so first to start on ordering, we're going to set up an online order form for these new products. That order form will be live on Monday and will be accessed through the distributor portal, and we'll get you the information you need to make sure you know where it is. On that order form, we're going to include the most popular configurations. It's just to make it a little more manageable in terms of what all you see. So when you go to do that, that order form is going to look something like this, where you can fill out the information necessary as far as the channel partner goes. And then I didn't put all of the configurations on this one. I cut the screen off a little, about halfway down. Enter the quantities. There'll be a submit button at the bottom. When you get all your information in there right, you hit the submit. Once that's done, that form will be emailed to customer care. Customer care will get that for each order, and then they will enter those into the system to be visible, because if you go into the system, those part numbers are zero priced and can't place orders on them, so that we can make sure these things get entered correctly and that we see all what's coming in. But they will enter those, they'll come in, and we'll have visibility for those both here at McElroy and for those out of the channel partners that need to see that. And then after that, once we're able to see what's going on, then we'll sequence those orders from a production startup standpoint, the things that make the most sense as far as parts flowing in and as far as product flowing down the assembly line to be able to produce and ship those. Now, I know that there's 26 configurations on that. Configurations are for Trackstar's, for some of the different rolling models, for both gas and electric, for manual and hydraulic. If there's a particular configuration you order that's not one of those 26 that show up, just please call. We have numbers for those, just didn't put every possible permutation of that into the form. But if you have a specific need or you run into issues or questions, please call and we'll make sure that gets done. Customer care will be entering those, as I said, and then as we get further down the road and a little thing, then we'll see the visibility to those as far as how those are going to actually show up in production from a timing standpoint. Yes, sir.
Is that a work form going to list out all the list prices for the different configurations, so that way we have that information?
For the ones that are on there, we'll have to go back and make sure that it's reflected correctly, but yeah, I would expect you'll be able to see that. Okay, that's all I know about ordering. I'm going to turn it back over to Brett. He's going to talk a little bit about market opportunities and some of our other plans as we move from here.
All right. Good job, Jeff. Not bad for a production guy talking about pricing. You did good. I'll tell Vince. So, all right, let's talk market. So as we look at this product, you know, obviously all the markets that we serve are pretty consistent, but I think there's a unique ability or feature of this technology as we roll it into all these markets that we serve. First, I'm going to touch on natural gas. So we have made great strides of bringing that data logger technology into natural gas. Natural gas guys have been a little slow to adopt that technology. Although we're making great inroads to do this. But now imagine the Trackstar 412i, the Trackstar 618i with the data logger goes right to them. So not only will they, they'll learn the technology right there, but it gives you, our channel partner, the opportunity to continue that conversation and that education of the data logger. You couple that with the enhancements that Mike discussed in terms of the Vault, that technology, and when we look at systems and as-builts as they're taking place across the country. Now imagine you've got a gas system being built in level 3, and you have that in level 3, and you've got it captured through the Vault using a Trackstar 412i. So it's a whole new opportunity for us and to be able to go in and have that conversation. I know a lot of our international partners have been, using an auto machine for quite a bit, but for us domestically, it gives us that opportunity. Oil and gas, this range of machinery has been the bread and butter in the Permian or any of the oil and gas fields for a long, long time. So what I see in this is a machine that's a very transient type workforce that's typically working in the oil and gas side, but it's also a workforce that's being tasked to work on a lot of different things. Go hop on the skid steer, go over here and go do this. So now you've got a machine that's easily trainable on, so your operator can be trained up quickly. So I think that's the message to the oil and gas field, is now we've got a machine. They can fuse in level 1 if they want to, if they're comfortable in that, but now you got options in level 2 and level 3 as well. So train up, being able to get those operators up and running a lot quicker. Same thing really holds in water too. I talked to Peter Dyke earlier, and Peter and I were talking about this because, you know, Peter and his efforts in the water side, and that's exactly what Peter said. He said, Brett, you know, that's part of our message is when we talk to engineers and civil engineers who are designing these water systems, they're like, this is, you know, fusing is complicating. And I said, he goes, now it's not. It's not going to be complicating at all. It's very easy to train on. So again, I think that's the same message for these water folks out there, where we're trying to make that market growth within the water side, is you got a machine that's easily trainable on, and you can get those operators up and running in no time. You know, as we look at data from rental fleets, the rental or the mid-range portion of our machinery, obviously it's a tremendous number out there in terms of scale versus large diameter, medium and small. Medium diameter, the scale of machines that are in the field is very, very large. But it's also the oldest average machine in terms of all the fleets that are out there is in medium diameter. So I think this gives our channel partners a tremendous opportunity to refine your fleets, bring them into age, plus you're bringing them up and you're introducing the newest technology into your rental fleets. And the last one I want to touch on is really not a market, but it could be a market. Essentially, it's labor. We've talked about it this week in terms of labor and how we're having a difficult time finding people to work for our jobs, for our positions, for our companies. And that's just us. Imagine, and you hear the same messages in the field today, but as we're attracting that next generation to come in to our companies and training them up, what do they want to know? They want to know technology. Somebody said it this morning. It's just like them playing on, you know, I'm not a big gamer, but it's like them sitting at home playing games. I see my kids do it. So bringing up that new generation into our industry, I think talking technology, that will excite them to be able to bring that next generation into our field. So I talked earlier about market introduction, or what I call onboarding for our channel partners. Now I know we've got a big international crowd in here as well, but I see the same pattern, very similar as to how we're going to work in terms of bringing this new machine to you all as well. The first thing is, in the next couple months, I'm going to be reaching out to all of you all, every company, all of our channel partners, because I want you to find a specialist, and I want you to assign an I-Series specialist. And maybe this is somebody that's already doing the 630i, the 900i, the 1200i. You could be your I-Series specialist within your operation. But I'm going to lean on that person heavily, because there's going to be a path of modules to be able to take beforehand, and there's going to be testing on that, because we want to get so much of this training done up front before we introduce the machine to the field. We did a good job of that on the previous I-Series. We want to do an even better job of that introducing this machine to the field as well. So again, I touched on it. There's going to be McElroy modules that will be forthcoming on this technology. And then we anticipate bringing back our channel partners to Tulsa at some point, much like we did on the larger diameter, to train, to get your hands on the machine. And we anticipate this being both an operational hands-on, but also a technical hands-on aspect as well. And then the initial shipments will happen. So we've used a concept called white glove. We probably have overused that term many, many times, but we're kind of actually a little sick of it around McElroy. But it's going to be an installation of this machine to you guys in the field. And again, I touched on it just a little bit ago, but the scale of these units is going to be much greater than the large diameter. We're going to try to reach each and every one of you initially with all the shipments of these machines. But to continue that, it's going to be very, very difficult. So we want you to be comfortable, trained once those shipments are taking place. So you're able to get those to your customers, you're able to train your customers both on the technical side and the operational side. And I just touched on it. We will visit the field. I'm not saying we're not going to come to you, because we definitely will. It's just going to be a challenge to, like we did with the white glove on the 630, 900, and the 1200. So, but we'll definitely come to you, because we want to see this technology in the field and we want to see it operating. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to questions.
Are you able to track the machine from the data logger? Do you still have to reach over the file?
Okay, that answers your question. As far as driving the unit to tracks, you still have the 2 track levers at the back.
Hey, let's make sure we repeat the question, please.
Yeah. Try this one, that one didn't work very well. Okay, question was, can you actually drive the vehicle from the data logger? And on these units, no. The track vehicle still has its 2 left and right ground drive levers that are still at the back where the key switch is, and that's where you'll operate it from. In the back.
Are the data loggers being charged like 630s to the 1200s when they're hooked up to the machine? Is the machine charging?
Yeah, the 12 volt connection will still, Question is the data logger still being charged like it is on the 630i through the 1200? And yes, through that 12 volt connection, it's providing power there, which allows it to charge the battery all the time.
On the model? I use a rolling, the new rolling, with the data logger 7. That connection will provide power to the...
So the follow-up question, is that true on the rolling unit? No, because we don't have 12 volts being provided from the unit. On a rolling unit, you have the mount provided, but you're still connecting through a more traditional transducer. Go ahead, Jim.
You mentioned that your goal is to go to one single heater on the 18. Is that true of the rolling as well, or just the TrackStar?
Okay, so the question is, if we're able to go to a single 18-inch heater, is that true on the rolling unit and in addition to the track vehicle, or just the TrackStar unit? And the goal is to be able to have one on both.
Okay, the reason I ask the question is that you're limited to 3,000 watts on the generator on that rolling unit and an 18 horsepower engine. Is there enough power to power that big of a heater?
That is what we are going through at the moment, but we believe there is, yes. John?
Did you change any of the components within the GCF line? Or is that like a new macro circuit board, or are we still going through the loop and everything to the circuit breaker?
So question is, did we change anything in the GFCI? We didn't change anything as far as the components that do the GFCI operation. Those are still done the same way. The box is a little different because of the cable management we had to do for the other functions, but there's no other board that's doing the GFCI part of it. Pat? I'm just following Mike's lead, that's all.
I was gonna say, kind of like Mike yesterday. Have you guys thought about increasing the distance basically from the skid bolt into the bottom of the carriage to accommodate larger flange adapters better than what the previous models did?
It was not in our plans as far as the updates to this unit, sorry. Question was, do we look at increasing the distance as far as where the carriage mounts so that we could accommodate some other additional fittings and otherwise? Is that fair?
Yeah, backup way on larger flange adapters.
Yeah.
Backup where you can't fit in a 412.
So for those backup rings, flange adapters and other things, that wasn't considered as far as in the updates to this particular model, so no.
Going back to the GFCI unit, which also changed the volume configuration. Historically, we've had water ingress problems with those, which sorted out now. I take it that's all been taken into account in this new box.
Yeah, so question on our traditional GFCI boxes, we've had some water ingress issues and otherwise, and has that been taken into account? All of our improvements we've made in the past have been done. It's really just a slightly different size box to be able to accommodate it, but the ceiling would all be very similar.
Jeff, with the carriage plugged in, I didn't actually have a look. Where is it plugged in? The heater?
Where's what?
The heater plugged in on 618. The heater, you've got plugs in the front, but the heater is indexing arm. Where is it plugged in?
Where is it plugged in? Okay. So question on the carriages, where is the actual heater plugged in? So the cables for that are running down on the indexer carriage, which if you look back there, there's a box there that controls the actual heater operation that then communicates over to the data logger as far as communicating what temperature we need and otherwise from the heater on off functionality that's there. So it's not as much the same as a plug, but on the bottom of that box were plugs for the heater.
So the plugs in the front are only if you go back to a conventional carriage.
Say that again.
The plugs in the front are only for a legacy carriage or
Yeah, yeah. So question is, or comment was, so the plugs on the GFCI box are really if you need to work with a conventional or a legacy carriage. Yes, that's for our plug-in heaters that we've had in the past, so that they provides that capability there. Was there one back there? Behind you, Eugene. Okay.
No, I assume that the Tractor Star 28 don't make any changes. We use that truck vehicle with the cars for the current car from 28.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So question is Trackstar 28, because it was in my mental notes but not on the bullets. So Trackstar 28 will use the new vehicle whenever we go to the transition. Again, the carriage doesn't change any, and it has the capabilities to function on that vehicle. But effectively, the only change is that it will start being mounted on the new vehicle whenever we make that transition.
Hey Jeff, when you take the pit bull and put it in an in-ditch configuration, can you verbalize what that looks like as far as, now that it has an indexer and that added component on the base of the jaw set? How does all that look if you're gonna break the machine down for in-ditch?
So, question, attempt to verbalize what that looks like for in-ditch. I'll try it this way and see if the other guys want to correct me. For a 4-jaw in-ditch, you're going to take the entire carriage off. That's going to go off in whatever particular application you have, but then that takes the indexer and heater and facer with it from that operation. And then we'll have our additional hoses and cables for that. But then everything from there will function just like it does on the unit. If you're going to go to 3-jaw, then you'll take your fixed jaw braces off, so you can pull the 3-jaw off to go down in ditch. And then from that operation, then it's, as far as how you want to handle the facer and the heater. You're going to have to pick them, place them in between the 2 ends of the pipe.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
It's still, it'll be relatively easy to remove the heater and the facer from the indexer so that they can be top loaded into the jaw set in the ditch.
Correct. Yeah. So those will be similar to our other operations if you're going to do that, to take the facer and heater off the indexer and move them down in ditch.
You guys looked at increasing ground speed on them compared to what Series 2s were, and go a little quicker with the traction across the site?
So question being, did we look at increasing ground speed on these units? No. Same hydraulic motor, same engine. same rubber tracks, same motors. So they're function similarly in that regard.
What's the new hydraulic capacity now? How many gallons?
So questions, what is the new hydraulic capacity? Anybody in the back want to give me a number?
10 gallons. Up from 8 up to 10 gallons.
Up to 10 gallons as far as hydraulic capacity. Tank.
Still the spin-on filter, or is it a cartridge type? Spin-on. Same low pressure filter on the turn.
Question on the filter, same spin-off filter that we've had in the past. Jim?
Mine goes back to the end ditch question. The old carriage had a outrigger to keep the carriage from tipping over when all 4 jaws were open. Does the indexer serve as that outrigger now so that the unit doesn't tip over when everything's in the outboard condition?
So question being, the older units had an outrigger to keep the carriage stable whenever the jaws were open, and does the indexer serve that function? Yeah, it serves pretty much the same function, because it has enough space there out there to keep them supported whenever they're open and or the heater and facer are out as well too. Any questions for Brett on the market? Anybody want to question him on how things are going?
Blew him away.
I did have a question on the market. You said up to half the Fusions were in fully automatic mode. How many machines are sold in areas, percentage-wise, that require fully automatic mode versus, you see what I'm saying? Are half of them sold in the UK? So does that mean that's why half are?
I wish.
So the question is, so my comment was that based on our data of the records that we have today, over half of those, 50% or more of those fusions that have been completed today in the field have been at level 3. So Jim, your comment is that
How many places where they're sold require fully automatic, like a UK or someplace like that?
Mhm.
Take that?
you bet.
So the answer is we do have a good chunk of I-Series in the UK now, but it is still a very small number compared to all of the I-Series that we have in the field. I'm going to guess maybe in the 5% range of the number of machines that are in automatic only markets.
Okay. That makes that look a lot more impressive.
Exactly.